Hello and welcome to this week's look at action and stunts on film and television. How are you? Is it warm enough for you? Particularly those people in the UK. We don't tend to get weather like this. We used to back in the old days. I remember when I was a kid, used to have every summer was just glorious. I don't remember any rain whatsoever. I also used to get hay fever every single year without failure, and then haven't had it for the last 20 years until this last week. And my right eye is now giving me jip beyond anything I've had before. It's very weird. This is, for you youngsters out there, this is what age does. So you've got all of this to look forward to if you are sufferers with hay fever. It'll stop for long periods of time, and then it'll crack back in again. So do take precautions. I've managed to get myself a fairly hefty dose of antihistamine, and hopefully this eye will stop running of its own accord before too long. At this week's show, we are very, very blessed to have a terrific guest to talk to. She's a remarkable individual, and from stunt performers the world over, they are remarkable individuals. They excel in varying areas, in all areas, in different aspects of the business. But when you consider that this particular individual has come from a country where a regime is such that women are not the most important thing in the world, and if you are a woman, you are considered as a second-class citizen. That makes life very, very complicated indeed, and yet when you look at what's happened and you listen to her speak, she speaks with perfect clarity and, more importantly, determination and drive, and a force to overcome what has been thrown in her direction. I refer, of course, to the fabulous Mahsa Ahmadi, who was, I think, really, and we do touch on it in the interview, but you may well have been familiar with her during the pre-title sequence of SKYFALL, the Bond movie, when they filmed in Turkey. She was working in Iran and in Turkey at the time as a performer, and was brought on board by the production company. You'll hear her story there. And after that, well, it's up and away. She's just continued to strive and be fabulous, and I dare say there will come a time when she probably runs for office. There's nothing she can't do at the present time. So sit back and enjoy this one. It's a great thrill to have her here. This is Mahsa Ahmadi. What was growing up like in Iran back then? Your memories as a girl and as living in that kind of world. What was that like?
So you brought up the gymnastic, that part of my life. I started when I was 5. It was my mom's dream to become a gymnast and go to Olympic and stuff. Never happened to her. She got married in an early age, and she had her first child when she was 15 or 16. So she never became a gymnast. So she passed her dream to me as soon as I'm the last child, I'm the third child, and happened to be a girl. And she passed all her dream to me. She took me to the gymnastic class when I was 5. And interesting enough about the question you are asking, my mom was dressing me as a boy, taking me to the to train with boys and having a man coach. Right. Because women, girls and boys, they cannot train together. They have to be separated at the school, in the gymnastic, in gym, or like any sport places. Or, like, yeah, there is no all the classes, everything for the education even, they are separated. We are separated. So as soon as I got to the team, when I was at the age of 7, my mom started taking me to the class to have having extra training with men and with boys to become more stronger. So I had my hair, like short hair, like My parents, they were taking me to the barber shop with my brothers, with my older brothers, to have like a shorter hair.
Same
And
haircut, right?
yeah, I even had a boy name. So since age of 7 all the way till age of 16, I like 15, 16, I was training with boys and nobody could see me as a girl. And yeah, I have pretty funny stories about those days.
I imagine you do. Yes.
Even when I became a stunt performer back home,
Mm,
we were not like separating stunt woman or stunt man
right.
because mostly I was doubling men. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I was training with
How, let me just get my head around the early part of that, because you've said yourself there that you, from the age of 5 up until 16, 17, you were training
with
as
men.
with men as a boy, as a man.
Yeah, my coach knew I'm a girl, but
Right.
it was a secret.
Okay.
But
So only a
nobody,
select few people knew who that the real,
my parents and the coach. That's it.
and everybody else was
They
completely
thought I'm a
oblivious
boy.
and had no knowledge that this was a girl and everything else. They were oblivious to that. There was no obvious signs that this is not a boy.
Mm-mm,
Okay.
no, nothing.
That's,
Uh,
if you look at that on a different level, that's, I mean, firstly, from a Western perspective, that's quite difficult to get your head around. However, from an alternative perspective, that's quite powerful because it means that there is no difference here. Do you see
yeah,
what I mean? There's no
true.
difference. Physically, you're doing the same thing. Mentally, you're doing the same thing. It's only the fact that your coach and your mother are aware of the fact that you're not the boy that they think you are, but you're doing everything in parallel, which I think is that's quite interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, imagine it's the same, still the same back in Iran.
Mm.
I know some of my friends child or like the people that I know, they are having a man coach and they are training with men like dressing up like a boy, which is it's so sad, you know. I grew
Yeah.
up acting to be a boy but I'm a girl, you know. It's really difficult. It in some way affects you.
Yeah, I think it's again looking at it from a Western perspective over here, from a European perspective anyway. It is difficult to accept that that still goes on now and
Yeah,
has been going on for so long, and yet um, discussing this with you now almost gives the impression that, well, that's just the way it was. That's just the way everything happened.
yeah,
In order to get from point A to point B, I had to be a boy. In order
yeah.
to do what I wanted to do, or to take on the mantle where your mother left off. She wanted to do gymnastics and wasn't able. And now this is the way round. We're going to get round this by doing this, and be able to further that experience.
Actually, I mean, I was really enjoying it because if I was acting like a girl, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be able to ride my brother's
Mm.
motorcycle when I was 9, when I was 8.
Right.
So these are like acting as a boy made me experience so much in my childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, even as a child, like even when we are talking about the range of the age, like 6, 7, 8, 9, it's a child. You should not care about it's a girl or boy. But back in my country, yes, they do care about it. They
Right.
they limit they put the little girl in this little cage and they don't let them to do anything, to follow the dream or to have a voice or like have opinion or
Mm.
just like, you know, they just they don't they wouldn't be seen, you know. But if you're a boy, yeah, of course you can have everything, you
Yeah.
can do whatever. Also, under the watch of the higher power, but you would have more freedom.
It's fascinating, and I also think that maybe in a very small way, maybe quite a large way actually, it has been able to channel your understanding of men better for later life. By that, I mean because you've been around men for so long, boys, other boys doing of your age, and then men in that sort of training situation. But then, as you said yourself, when you did start getting work in the business, I know a little later on, but particularly in Iran or in Turkey later on, there was, well, you were doubling men, as you said. Now, the
90% of my job, I was doubling men
exactly
or
right,
acting as a bad man. Yeah,
precisely. But the concept of it, and with a lot of situations, is that if you're a stunt woman and you're doubling an actress, let's say, right, as a scenario,
yeah,
there are fabulous photographs of you with your double, right? And from a physicality perspective, fantastic. But what you have to do is you have to take on the mannerisms and the movement of that individual just for those few frames while
yeah.
you're doing the doubling so that you're convincing the audience it's the actress doing that. And I wonder if that's taken on itself as well because you've been around boys for so long and men for so long to go,
Oh my
ah,
God.
I see what they're doing. I can do that. That's a thing that guys do. I can do that quite easily, and you do it almost naturally.
I was working on 911, and for the first time, I'm talking about like a long time ago. Um, I had dress for the first time ever in my whole career. I had a dress on, and the dress was short. And I'm like, okay, my whole scene was I'm running and I'm getting tackled by some guy and fall down, right? So they were like really my coordinator. It was Greg Barnett.
Mhm.
He was keep saying that, okay, you are a lady with the heels and everything, you are running to get away from the crowd and this guy trap you and you just falling down. I had a hard time running like a lady. I mean, I'm good
Outpacing the
now.
guy that was
I'm
trying to
good
get you.
now. But I think it was my second year being in United States. And as I said, it was my first time ever having a dress on a job. It was so weird for me. It was like so weird. But yeah, that was one of my funniest story.
I'd
Yeah.
like to think that there was a few moments where in a couple of takes you were okay and go, and she's gone, and the guy just can't catch you because you're just moving too quickly and powering away like
No, I
Usain
had the
Bolt.
heels on. So yeah, I had
With
the
heels
heels
as
on. So
well.
the heels was just making me slow. But I was like, I used to run like doubling guys and like
Yes,
coupling guys. I used to run like this to make my shoulder and like make
yes, of
myself
course.
look bigger and like more stronger.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, now I have to run like this.
The feminine shuffle that you're
Yeah.
having to do. It's
Of
again
course.
another fascinating thing because for so many years, because of the quantity of stunt performers, female stunt performers that the world has had, it's always been the guys doubling the girls.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in certain
I
situations, it's always been the
opposite.
guys doubling the girls, even when there's girls about, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. However, there have always been those situations where you look at a few. It's only a few frames. It's the guy driving the car, or it's the guy running from or jumping from there to there. It's a guy. It's very clearly a guy. There's
Yeah.
absolutely from 1,000 yards away, you can go, that's a guy. And yet
Yeah.
you've managed in certain ways to be able to hide that because of your experience already being around them and having to be one for quite a period of time. Even though it's terrible, it's a very important tool, particularly in the for the job that you're doing, I think.
In the side story, I was doubling this guy back in Iran for over 4 years. Um, I was doing everything, fighting, driving, like so many things as his double. And he was always ashamed of saying that I mean, I was in a younger age. I was like 17, 18, 19 years old when I was doubling him. and he was always ashamed of saying that he has a double that it's a she, and it's even like 20 years or so younger than him. But it was like, yeah, when I was back home, whoever I was double, they never mentioned my name ever. That they had a double, that her name is Mahsa. It doesn't matter it was a girl or like it was a woman actor or it was a man actor. They
Right.
never mentioned my name ever.
Yeah. Again, it's something that has needed to have been done for many, many years. The fact that, and you mentioned the shame factor, and
Yeah.
it's on this instance from a male actor being doubled by a woman, which, as far as he's concerned, is just, it's too weird to even talk about. And yet, the recognition itself would have been fine. You'd have accepted recognition of some shape or form, but particularly in those moments where it would have gone, no, she's doubling me.
Yeah.
It's not me doing it, but she's the best at what she does. She's and she's the perfect double for me, and therefore, she's my stunt performer. But even now, in this 21st century that we live in now, even now, it's really difficult to get those words pulled out of actors' mouths.
Oh
It
my God,
in
I'm
certain
lucky in
cases.
that way. I'm lucky here in United States. I'm cutting you off right here because
You're
I'm
more than
doubling
welcome.
this amazing actress, Katie O'Brien, for past few years now, for a few her latest few movies and TV
Mhm.
shows. Oh my God, she's amazing, amazing badass herself. And yeah, she's like taking me everywhere. She's like introducing me to whomever. It's like not even necessarily to introducing me. We are just friends going out. But
Right.
she's like, oh my gosh, she's my double. I mean, meet my double.
Yeah.
But like here in United States, like everything is different. I mean, I'm doubling this amazing lady. She's like, you watch her shows and movies. She's just badass.
Yeah.
She used to be a cop. Yeah, and she's like really athletic. Yeah. So I'm lucky to be her double.
Well, that's it. Absolutely. And performers do get into those areas where they just find that niche thing, that individual is absolutely perfect, and the two of you together work very well together. There are other doubles that do exactly the same thing, working with other actors and actresses. But there are still and they will also be the first to go, no, 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 that wasn't me. That was Marsha did that. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was Massa. So you have those moments, but then you also have those moments where you're trying to pull teeth with people just on, even at events, like you'd be at an event, and the actor would be at the event, and they're talking about, well, there's a great deal of action in this movie. And they go, yeah, I know, I did everything myself. And you go, please don't say that, because that's not what you did. You know that as well as I do. We didn't do that. So it's great that you're in a situation like that. How did the doubling thing happen? How did the stunt work happen? Because obviously and I'm going back to the Iran for a moment here, because I just want to make that transition from
Yeah.
one to the other. How did that happen? I mean, your gymnastic work was obviously getting of extraordinary quality, and somebody will have seen that there was potential there. How did that happen? Tell us.
So we are talking about Iran.
Hmm.
Gymnastic for women in Iran, it doesn't go anywhere. You don't have competition with other country. They don't respect you as gymnast. They don't. There's no future
Right.
for the gymnastic for women. So, and then at the age of 18, as soon as you graduate in the school, you get retired. And it's exactly the age that you are most in shape, right?
Mm.
So when I was 9, 10, my mom started sending me to martial arts, to wushu, so to have better future. Uh, at the same time I was doing gymnastic, being in the team, I got invited after 2 years of training wushu. I got invited to the national team for the fighting part of wushu. Um, but I never liked it. So I remember my mom was like literally dragging me. I was crying, but she was dragging me to the gym to go to training to get ready for the competition or whatever they had. One time, I was at the age of, in a side, because I never liked wushu or like martial art, being like aggressive fighting and stuff, my mom started taking a class with me. So we got to the black belt together, my mom and I. So that was a funny. She was my fighting competition. We were just training together. But like I was 9, 10, and she was my mom.
Don't mess with mum. She's really
Yeah,
aggressive at the
no.
moment, and she's on a black belt, so just be careful.
She never punched me. She never punched me or
Never
kicked
got me
me.
once.
When I got older, in between of like trying, my mom mostly was like my mom's side tried to figure out what she wants me to be, like where I can have future. Like in Iran, like women, they don't have future. Obviously, we don't. How long you want to study? You want to get the PhD or whatever? Then what? You're nobody in Iran, like in a Muslim country. So she was trying to figure out what would be my option. One time I came back from school, I was at the age of like I was late 15, early 16. Came back from school, I only had 1 hour to have my lunch and go to training. I was training for almost 9 hours a day beside the school. So I was having my lunch in front of the TV, and I'm sure you heard the name Peyman Abadi. He was an Iranian German guy that he was doing stunts for the action concept back in Germany. He moved back to Iran at that year. I'm talking about almost 20 years ago, like 19 years ago. So he had this interview with the TV, with like a national TV. I was watching and I'm like, yeah, he says he's a stuntman. I'm looking at my mom. I'm like, yeah, he's doing everything I would love to do. And he's a stuntman. I want to be a stuntman. And my mom looked at me and she was like, yeah, stuntman. Well, maybe there is a woman part in there. So then, as a teenager, I found a way to find this person, Peyman Abadi, and I managed to have get a meeting with him. So he thought I'm adult. He didn't know I'm underage. I wasn't even 18. I was 16 years old.
Oh, right.
So I found him, and on the phone, I was talking with him to manage the meeting, and he goes, "Okay, you're talking about the school. You're underage. You're under 18, so you better come with one of your parents." So I went there for the first time to meet him with my mom. And I remember I was collecting all my medals, whatever I have been achieving in any sports my whole life. I was like collecting everything to get his attention. Yeah, right. I remember I had one of those Nokia cell phones that it was like black and white, but my uncle, he had the better one that you could have little video or like pictures in it. So I borrowed that and I went to the gym, record some like little clip of myself doing like my routine and stuff. And I went there and I was showing him everything. And he's looking at me and he's like, "You are 2 years under the age that you're supposed to be." So he was like, "Yeah, well, maybe you can come to one of our training." So he invited me to the training. And I was I was a teenager standing right behind him. Whatever he was doing, he was just showing audience what stunt performer train with, like how they train.
Display, yeah.
So he had this like mini trampoline, doing like some flips. Of course, I'm a gymnast. I can do any kind of flips. And he had like a little stand, like a 10-feet stand. He climbed up and he jumped from it. And I was like, again, like one of those teenagers. I climbed up, like jumped right after him. It was like I was just doing whatever he was doing. And he went to my mom. He looked at me and he told to my mom, I cannot accept her, but if she becomes a stunt woman, she's gonna be one of the best in the whole world. I'm talking about 19 years ago. Then he didn't accept me. A few months after that, one of his coaches, I'm sure you know him, Asha Ahmadi. A few months after that, Asha was having the audition to create his own team. I called him and he's like, you are up for the audition? I said, yeah. And he goes, do you think you can pass the audition? And I said, I would promise that I would pass, but we'll see. So I showed up at the place that he was running the audition. Whatever he was asking from other guys, it was 20 guys and it was like 16 years old girl at the end of the line. It was me. Whatever he was asking from boys, he was asking 3 times harder from me. But again, I was in my best shape. I was a teenager. I was like
You could do it anyway. Yeah, exactly.
I was like, yeah, okay, watch me. So funny enough, all those 20 guys, they did not get accepted. And it was only me past the whole audition. Wow. So then I start working, like I start like training with him. So how I was training with him, my parents, they were friends with the manager of the gyms because we didn't have a gym, like place to train.
Okay.
Also, remember, men and women, they cannot train together. They have to be separated. So the friendship I had and my parents, they had with the manager of a couple of the gym that I used to train there for gymnastic team. I was asking them whenever the gym is like empty, like after 9 p.m., like whenever, or like early in the day, or like at the that time between noon to 2 that the gym is closed down for lunch. So we were just like secretly training in the gym when nobody were there, like secretly everywhere, like all the doors were closed.
Just because you had, that was the only time available. You had to, yeah.
Because it was illegal, and that was the only time and the safest place we could train.
Right.
So on the very first job, Asha was acting on this commercial for the tea, and he had his left arm was broken, and he had like pins and everything in his hand, and he was fully casted. So, and have you ever met Asha? Asha is like this much taller than me. Like
I'd interviewed him over Zoom. In fact, he was in a cafe in Iran as we were doing this. It was a fascinating chat, but I'd never met him personally. No.
Yeah, he was over 6 foot tall, like almost like 180 something centimeter his height was. So it was like a huge gap between him and I. So one of the scene was on a 7-story built from top of the 7-story building, do the front flip to the other building, which it was a 5-story. So from roof to roof, and the gap between was 3 meters. So it was like this.
Yeah.
So he had the whole arm in the cast and everything, and he's like, yeah, I'm not sure if I can do this. And the director is like looking at me, looking at Asha, and I was like in the side flipping for myself, you know. And the director was looking at me, and he's like, yeah, why we not having her? Like, do we have another outfit of Asha? We can have it on her, and we can just do some magic on her face, and then it's a long distance shot, so we can just shoot the flip. And that was my very first stunt. I was doubling Asha, the coordinator, the acting. And as I said, it was this much the height difference.
But shot the way it was and from distance, you'd never
Yeah,
tell anyone.
it was one of my craziest stunts ever, because I had a safety line, but um, I wasn't sure what would be happen if I was going to use my safety line. So I was jumping from that rooftop, the highest rooftop, to the lowest rooftop, doing the flip, and it was 3 meter gap. So the director was like, yeah, I'm not gonna see this. I'm going inside the building. When it's done, just call me out.
The director didn't want to watch it.
Yeah. So, but
Filling you
we,
full of
we did it
confidence.
like a few times. It wasn't even one shot. We have been doing it like 4 or 5 times. So it was one of the fun ones, the first one.
And that's where it all started. This this
That's where it
extraordinary journey
started.
that you've been on.
And yeah, then I start like getting like, I had a hard time proving myself to the cinema back home,
Right.
as it like young and like being a woman and doing these things that they never had. I'm the only one and first one, you know. And couple years, it was almost couple years after I started doing it, Peyman Abadi died on set doing the car stunt.
Yeah.
And all the like everything got back to the beginning even worse. So we had to start like proving ourselves again, even like even more stronger, you know. Then but it was this vibe that I have been working in Iran for 10 years, not only in Iran. Before I moved to United States, I was working in whole Middle East, like Turkey, Azerbaijan, Russia, this, there, Dubai. So I don't know, uh, I cannot give you one specific reason. It was the whole vibe, in environment, people, everything, that I was never be confident enough about whoever was asking me, what's your job? What do you do for a living? I I never said I'm a stunt performer or I'm a stunt woman. I have been like interviewing in the TV like at least once a month for past few years of me living in Iran. I was known pretty well. But again, I was getting mocked by people. They were like making fun of me. Like um it's I don't know how to call it, but it goes back to the way that people over there, they look at you, they look at women's, you know. It was cool for Amir and Asha, they do stunts, they are cool guys, but me, they were like, yeah, you are following
So
these
is
guys.
there are a number of challenges here, but the biggest challenge, apart from anything else, is clearly you being a woman. That was the
Of course.
problem in
Yeah,
that location.
yeah. They never listened to me. They never believed what I was saying. They never believed when I was saying, I can do this thing. Just trust me. Let me just do it. So I mean, if Asha were not on set, or Amir, we were three. So
That's right. Yeah.
Amir, Asha, and me. So if those two guys were not on set, they wouldn't believe me. They wouldn't let me do the job. But I was clearly could handle everything. But they were like, yeah. So we start coming up with this idea, whatever we start doing it, I'm the first person doing it. When we first made the fire gel, I was the first person being fully on fire by the gel that three of us, we made it. So when we start like doing it like wire work, they were testing it on me. Like I was on a wire, I was on a ratchet, I was on this, I was on that. When we start doing the car hit, car knockdown, they were like, okay, we trust Mahsa gonna do this. So one of the guys was the driver, and they were like hitting me. So we were like trying to be a team and show them that, yeah, whatever the guys can do, actually it's Mahsa leading
Yes,
us,
of
kind of.
course.
So that was a really good teamwork.
And being with this Stunt 13, is that right? Is that that was the name of
Yeah.
the organization, was it? And having you as a focal point for that, and as you say yourself, almost, I don't want to use the phrase, but almost the crash test dummy, right? She's the girl, but she's going to be but on the basis that she's going to do the same stuff as the guys, so she needs to be in the thick of it and knowing how this works and developing that gel, which it'd been around for a little while, but obviously
Yeah.
having to develop it in your country, that's the thing, and being able to use it for that purpose. Lots of many aspects to that, and understanding the wire work and the engineering basis. It became quite a little industry, but being able to get ourselves in a situation where if there was action required in any shape or form, they come to Stunt 13 to say, look, can you create this for us? Can you make this work for us? So extraordinary thing to think that you were in there from ground level.
So about how we start learning all these things,
Mm,
um, we were connected with some of the coordinators from some of the legendary names over here in the United States and in UK.
mhm.
Whatever we wanted to do, first we were watching on a YouTube the videos first, and then we start like asking them questions. Okay, I'm gonna do this. How do you think? I mean, I don't have this equipment, that equipment, this material, but I have this and that. How do you think we can make it safely? So I was getting we were getting like tips and knowledge from the legendaries outside Iran.
Mm.
So we had help from Andy was helping us a lot. Gary was helping us a lot. Lane Levitt about the fire stuff, he was
Well,
helping us
see,
a lot.
Lane Levitt is,
Yeah,
but firstly, not only a great stuntman, but also an amazing engineer as far as
yeah.
create.
Oh
You
my,
want something created, it's never
he's
been
one
done
of my
before.
sponsors.
Lane will do it, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we had that inside, and also in the side we had another challenge. Internet back in Iran, I'm not gonna name it.
Well,
Turtle. It's so
the hare and the
for
turtle, yes.
watching 1 minute of a little video for 1 minute, we
Mm.
had to leave it to download that 1 minute for like a day or two.
Wow.
It was that bad. So it was like, and then time difference to sending an email or messages to these people to get to have them to get back to us. It was like taking some time.
So again, and just we'll just clarify this for those people watching and trying to understand this, is that you, you get we're creating the gel, we're creating the wires, but we're going to those individuals who are names in the like Andy Armstrong, like Gary Powell, like you mentioned, and saying, look, how can we do this? This is what we've got. We don't have all the equipment, but we've got some of it, and we want to know if we can do this with that. But in order to do that, because of the technology that's available in your country, particularly from an internet perspective, which everybody was using back then because it was the most simple way to phoning people on cell phones or making phone calls or trying to find videos. It's so complicated. People in other countries around the world be tearing their hair out, thinking, "I can't live like this." But
Yeah.
you didn't have an alternative, and yet you just kept going on and going on and kept pushing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story.
That we didn't have any other option, you
Yeah.
know. That's all we had. We had to make it work. And yeah, we had the failure times, we had the successful times. We were like up and down all the time, but we never gave up, you know. But sadly we lost Asha a few years ago,
Mm.
and then I moved here, so with three of us fell apart. So that's a sad part of the Stunt 13.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. It's a great
story.
shame. And I say that I'd interviewed Asha, and a remarkable individual, and certainly there are not only inspired you and Amir, but also many other stunt performers around the world who are now stunt performers, had the ability to say, look at that guy, look at the thing he's doing, that it's remarkable pipe ramps and all sorts of stuff that he was doing, which I don't think had been done for a long time, or certainly not regularly. And he would do
Yeah.
720s regularly and all this sort of stuff. So it was extraordinary stuff, absolutely amazing. Um, uh, Connected with that, of course, and the work that you and Amir and Asha did together brings us to Skyfall and Turkey, and that's a real turning point, I think, in your career, in everybody's career, really, from that basis, because they were filming Skyfall in Turkey for the pre-title sequence, and you'd been working there. The team had been working there and brought you in for that extraordinary pre-title sequence. There's a moment which I still this is how it gets to you. I know because I know you're there, and I know Arsha's there, and I know that Amir is there. I can see you all, and I tend to forget that the motorcycle is coming through the glass, and you're sat underneath it as it
Yeah.
arrives. It's remarkable moments in
It's
the
the
market.
first three bikes. One of them was Rob Hunt, the other one was Rick English, and I think the third bike was Lee Morrison. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look again. No, no, no. Lee was in a car, in the Audi, like
Oh, he
turning the
turned the car
Audi
over. That's right.
over.
Yes.
So we were under the car. We passed the bike, and we were like three of us. We were under Lee Morrison's car.
Right.
So that was one of the cool scenes. Yeah.
It just felt like from doing what you were doing in Iran, all right, working in television and doing commercials and doing stunts, and all of a sudden, yeah, hang on, this is a Bond movie. This is a very different animal altogether. Did that feel like that? How special did that feel from your perspective, from a Stunt 13 perspective?
John, I have a video. I'll send it to you. I have to find it. Every day, three of us, after we were like wrapped from the set, we were going back to our hotel room and like lighting the candle, being so emotional and cry and talking like with each other, like, we are in Bond. From Iran, we are in the James Bond movie. And Skyfall turned out the best James Bond
Oh,
ever.
just quite
Right?
popular,
Yeah.
quite
So
successful. Yeah.
when we got the call to go to James Bond movie, we didn't believe it. We thought it's a Turkish movie called James Bond because a month before that, we were working on this Turkish movie, the biggest Turkish action movie called Chaos.
Okay.
And it was about a month before the whole James Bond crew come to Istanbul. We were working there. That's how Gary found us.
Right.
So we were working there, and we again got called from the local production, the local Turkish production, and we were like, okay, it's a Turkish version of James Bond. It's not a James Bond. It's not Sean Connery or Daniel Craig or any of them.
No,
So
it's an actual James Bond. Yeah.
so till the day that we were on the rehearsal day and seeing like every person that they are not, all the stunt crew that they are not Turkish, like all the cast and crew, they are not Turkish, they are actually British.
Mm.
And we are looking at each other and they're like,
And a little
yeah,
light
we're
went on.
like, okay. And then guess who took a audition from me for driving? Guess whom was it? It was one taxi, like a taxi car. So they were
Yep.
like doing audition with that car. The expert stunt driver was sitting in the back, and whoever was auditioning was sitting behind the wheel and just start driving, and he was guiding, okay, turn to right, and the way that you're turning, I don't want to feel anything, I don't want to move, so just smoothly turn to right. He was just keep saying turn left, turn right, do this, do that. And then at the end, when I walked out the car, I didn't know, my English was zero at the time. I had to translate. I mean, my Turkish is my second language because I started working in Turkey. So
Mhm.
I had a like Turkish translator in a car. When I walked out the car, it was Pete Myers standing there.
Oh,
Did
my.
you know? Did you know Ben? And I'm like, who's Ben? His name is Ben, and he goes, yeah, you don't know Ben? Ben Collins? Oh my God, Ben Collins, the Top Gear guy. He's the Top Gear. He's the guy. He's the stick. And I'm like, I start shaking, and I'm like, thank God I didn't know who
Yeah.
he is when I was sitting in the car. Otherwise, I would be like
The audition
crashing
wouldn't have gone
over.
well if you'd realized the Stig was
I'm
behind
like,
you.
oh my God, Stig was auditioning me. So yeah, like working for 3 months, over 3 months with these names, like Robbie Madison. Oh my
Yeah.
God, he's one of the like coolest friends of me. We used to skydive together. Yeah, most of my really good friends right now, I mean, we stayed in touch and we are still friends. They are the people I worked in Skyfall with.
Yeah.
Like my first mentor, Deez Sharp. He was a head rigger.
Yeah.
Um,
For those people who
and
don't know, Diz, I'll just give you a brief example. In the Bourne films, I think I'm trying to think which Bourne one it is, but there's a scene where Jason jumps from the roof
he's
through
the
a
camera guy.
building opposite. Diz is the camera guy, and also did the camera work on Quantum of Solace as well. He's the camera guy who's jumping from roof to roof when Bobby Hanton is going and is doubling Daniel Craig. So, and your head rigger. And a very important member of any crew to have a head rigger, but Diz does the lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
and you're still friends with him, yeah?
Yes. To be in fact, when I came here to United States, of course, I knew the Armstrong family, but I
Yeah.
was reaching out to I didn't know I'm going to stay in United States. So I thought I'm going to be here for a couple months. So I was reaching out to all the people I was working
Mhm.
outside the United States with to just have a lunch, just start like chit-chatting, catching up, and just go back home. So I contact this and I met up with him. Then I decided to stay here. He introduced me to his best friend, Alex Terzieff. He was running the show called Z Nation at the time,
Right.
2015, 16. So my very first job came from like these introduced me to his coordinator friend that he was working for him as well. He was a head rigger on that show as well. So I got
Right.
my very first job through this. So even to this day, my closest friends, they are from James Bond.
It's where it
Yeah,
all starts. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, James Bond changed my whole life. Like Gary
That's the
introduced me
strap
to
line.
Andy. Yeah, Gary introduced me to Andy after James Bond.
Yeah.
When Andy was coming to Abu Dhabi for Bang Bang movie,
Well,
Andy
let's
called.
I was going to say, let's talk about that because obviously Andy's been a huge part of your life. The Armstrong family have been great supporters of you, and as you say, he was coming to Abu Dhabi to film a Bang Bang. So the communication came to you, yeah.
2014 it was, I think early 2014. He was coming to, it was, I think, three locations for his movie Bang Bang was one
Mhm.
India, UK, and Abu Dhabi. So when he was coming to Abu Dhabi at the time, I mean, they are like still, I think, close friends, Gary and Andy. So they were talking, and Gary was like, "Yeah, I hired these Iranians. I think the best local you can get the stunt performers. They are these three guys, Amir, Masa, and Asha." So Andy was getting my number through Gary,
Right.
and it was about a week before they make it to Abu Dhabi. Andy called, and I was in south of Iran working in another movie, like Iranian movie. I actually had the contract for 6 months, but I was like, Andy called, and I'm like, bye, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, but no thanks. I've got to go.
yeah, so I met him. Funny, Jen was getting a driving audition from me, Jennifer Caputo, Andy's wife now. So first time I met them there at the racing track, and we start talking, and he was like, yeah, I heard so much about you through Gary. And I'm like, oh, Gary actually talked about us? Does he remember us?
Spoke.
What
Yeah.
he exactly said.
Wow.
So then, yeah, of course, you know, Andy, he's the top guy. And funny, on that job, one day he picked 5 guys. One of the guys was me.
Right.
So 5 bad guys to do
Dude.
this, like rappelling from the tallest building in Abu Dhabi called Capital Gate,
Yes.
rappelling down with the shotgun on the hand and just break the window and go in and start shooting and killing people. So I remember he's like, you're going to be a bad man. So on the radio, he's like, hey, Mahsa, are you happy with the mustache on your face? Just copy. So
I
I'm
think
like,
I think I
copy,
did mention
copy.
I think I mentioned to you at some point, it doesn't matter what facial hair you have, you just rock it. It's really very
I,
there's people I know, right? There's so
yeah.
many men in the world going, oh God, I've got beard envy or I've got mustache envy. I
Oh
can't do
my,
it. And yet she does it. It's just natural.
I have a funny pictures of that job, or like in general with the beard and mustache and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, even Andy made me as a bad guy for his
I
movie.
will also defy audiences if you watch that sequence in the movie Bang Bang. I defy you to find out which one's Massa here because it's not it's not obvious at all. There's no and I don't know which one you are, but you are very clearly one of those
He put me right in the middle.
right in the middle. Okay, right. We'll check that one out right in the middle. Turning points, you know, you just there's this whole thing about being in the right place at the right time, and that does that you've got to have the talent to be there in the first place. You've got to have the
Yeah.
ability to be in that place because you were asked to do so. But then the fallout from that is that
Yeah.
you've gone from strength to strength. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The work that you're doing, the continual work that you're doing, and the all not only the business but also the work that you're doing for women the world over, I think is very powerful. And of course, you said yourself, Andy, the family, they understand that and they support you
Oh my
100%
God.
with all of this.
They are the sweetest part of the whole thing, my whole life. I they I found my second parents, you know. They funny enough, whenever Andy wants to introduce me to whomever, he is like, meet my unofficial adopted Iranian daughter. He always calls me that.
Yeah.
So he's just like my second father. He's not, there is no difference between my dad and him, you
Mm.
know. Also Jen. Jen is like, she is not that old to have a daughter as age as me, but I still call her mommy. So she's, yeah, they are my family. I
Yeah.
mean, they have been living in LA when I moved here. For past 3 years they moved to Orlando. I felt like I'm gonna be away from my parents once again. So I was so sad when they were moving out of LA.
Well,
So
you know, the needs must and stuff has to go on, but you've proved quite happily that they're more than happy to have you in their fold as family. So that's terrific, and that one you'll never lose that. You know, they'll travel all over the world, they'll be in different parts of the world, and but you'll still be their adopted Iranian daughter. So
yeah,
that's always going to be the way. Not only from uh, that work, but then you certainly now you're a stunt coordinating, which
yeah,
is you know you've gone the full length. There was the History Channel with that wonderful thing that you did. Tell us about that because I think that's going to be on repeat. I think before too long.
yeah. It was the series called Colosseum. It was a mini series for History Channel, documentary drama
Hmm.
series. So the producer was the same producer as Bang Bang that we were shooting in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi,
Yes.
with Andy. Andy was the coordinator and the second unit director. They called him to coordinate this series. And he's like, yeah, I'm retired. I'm not going to work. I'm going to send my daughter.
There you
So
go.
he
See?
called me. He's like, "Yeah, you're going to coordinate the series," and it was my very first coordinating job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't. They didn't hand it to me like this. They were like interviewing me. I had this meeting with the director, Rule René, and the producer, and the whole like you know how it is before thing, and then um, yeah, it was a great challenge.
Mm.
Like I learned a lot, like in my very first on my very first coordinating job. Thanks
It's
to Gary and Andy, they were like mentoring me while I was there.
yes.
So
It,
because
it
of the
it was
time
a
difference,
big show too, like 8 episodes,
yeah.
with lots of cast members and lots of stunt people to with battles and coordination and choreography. And you were in a couple of these shots as well, so there was a great deal to take on. Was that what you expected coordinating to be after watching what had gone on before with Andy and all the other coordinators? Had you
So
anticipated that there would be this much work involved?
Well, I did, I mean, definitely was the hardest than what I thought it would be.
Hmm.
But I mean, when I had this script to read, it was like every episode, it has a battle, it has a horse thing, it has so many like 101 fight, like group
Hmm.
fights and all that. Chariot comes in, fireworks, all that. And the thing in the whole show was I had a great team. They let me to have some of my main double. I mean, we didn't have double the main performers from here. So the most challenging part was the director said, I don't want to have double for any of my actors, not even my actress. I want you to train them. So I trained them for over a month. All the actors, all the lead characters that they were fighting and they took the helmet off and they are like
Hmm.
actors. I trained them for over 4 weeks in Morocco, like before we start shooting and everything. And they were just amazing. They were like all athletic, all like they were like hitting the ground. And you saw the show. We were like
Hmm.
shooting in a forest, and it was most of the location where we were fighting on concrete. So and then the whole like costume for the actors, it was just a little shirt. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything else.
Couldn't
So
hide
it
any
was
pads or anything, though.
yeah. So it was definitely a big challenge, but we made it safe and sound and looked great. They said.
It's a great show. It's I think it's due a repeat over here at some point, but it's well worth catching if anybody hasn't seen it. Colosseum. If you want to go to Masha's IMDb page, there's listings on there, and you can go and check out all of her extraordinary work that she's happened over the years. Just a couple of more things. I just wanted to touch on the fact that I had numerous discussions with people over the years, older performers, admittedly, but many of them in those early days when they were coming in, they often considered that television was not quite, it was a second line to film. Now, I know that's changed considerably these days because the medium of entertainment has changed. Lots of stuff happens on TV first. Streaming now, we've got all sorts of bits and pieces. You work a lot on television. Do you, the speed of filming on television, do you like that because the schedules are shorter and you've got to get stuff done by a certain time? Does that work for you as opposed to working long periods on film?
Are we talking money wise or are we talking
Well,
about time
I,
wise?
I wasn't driving at money, but if we're going to end up there, there's a difference. Yeah, okay, I see that. Apart from the
Which one
financial
exactly are we talking?
failings of television.
But personally, I like working in movies better because usually in the movies you do like more cool stuff, and I mean also we do cool stuff on shows as well,
Mhm.
but it's you are out of town for shorter time
Yes, of
than a
course.
series. For series, I mean, you are out on a location for way longer, for episodes, seasons, all that. But for movies, you're just going for that movie is like 3 months, max 4 months, and you're coming back. So I personally like working on the movies. But I mean, I'm happy to work on both of them. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, production wise, I like movies better. It's like fastest, I
Yeah.
guess.
There was always a location thing as well, and the fact that
Yeah,
if it was possible for that work to be filmed not a million miles away
yeah,
from where you live, then you can commute back every day. You know,
yeah,
it's that getting home stuff and stuff. Um, and also, I wanted to talk about your remarkable career as in the skydiving. Now, skydiving, you know, we've got lots of skydivers the world over who go, do you know, I think stunt
yeah,
work might be the thing for me. And also at the Taurus Awards very recently, Heart of Stone, an extraordinary
yeah.
skydiving sequence in that. How many jumps have you made? Have we got a full total off the top of your head? Do you know?
So it goes back when I was back home. I got my license, and back in Iran, still women cannot do the skydiving.
Right.
The skydiving, when I started, it was only for military men. And I had to go to another country to get my license to experience skydiving. However, I managed to do the jump inside Iran, and I had it really, really badly crash,
Oh.
and it was my fault. It happened that it was an accident, and it happened. But I became first female skydiver and also base jumper in Iran inside the
Yeah.
country after the regime changed.
Uh-huh.
I remember I worked 2 years to save my money. I used to paraglide when I was 16 to 17, 18 years old. And when I was 18, 19, I start like collecting, like saving money to go somewhere else, see which country, like neighbor country I can go with the
Hmm.
less money to get my license. I
Okay.
found Russia with a better price, with a longer visa I can get, and the drop zone is valid for USPA as well. So I managed to go there. I was camping inside the drop zone next to the airplanes because I wanted to jump with even a penny I had. I didn't want it to spend on anything else. I had these conserves, the cans, the food cans, and I had my tent, my camping gear and stuff. I was camping in the drop zone next to airplanes. And in Russia, at that time I went, it was only like 3 hours dark time. So
No,
I
right.
only had like 3 hours of
3 hour
sleep.
window.
For 2 weeks, I was jumping, and I'm talking about 2011. I did it right after I came back from James Bond. I got my license. And I was tracking my jumps for the first year or two. As soon as I start traveling for work and stuff, I had it. I had 500 jumps before I make it to United States. I was jumping in Turkey. I was jumping in Dubai. I went back to Russia again. When I came here with the moving and stuff, I lost my logbook, and I don't know how many jumps I have.
So now you can just make it up.
Uh,
20,000 jumps.
No, nobody's asking me how many jumps do you have. They usually ask what's your license, you
Oh, I
know?
see. Because they always used to want to know how many, because you needed to
I
have
mean,
so
they
many jumps.
ask. They definitely ask, but I mean, um, I'm not proud of it. But I lost my library and I lost counting for past 5, 6 years. But I mean, I keep up with my license. I go jump here and there whenever I have time.
And
And
you've done the there's you can skydive in the wind tunnel stuff. You've done that as
yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah. So that's again happened before I started skydiving, I was doing flying in the wind tunnel to
Right.
like get ready
Yep.
because back in Iran we didn't have instructor or coach to guide me through how to fly, how to
Mhm.
skydive. All of them they were for military, and it's like a separate relationship between people, like um, uh, normal people and military. So I had to learn myself. So I didn't have a coach or anything when I did my skydiving, my first jump in
Mhm.
Iran. So before that, I started flying in a wind tunnel to find my balance and how to like
Yes.
do the basic
Body
thing, base
positioning. Yeah.
flying. And it was 2 years before I come to United States. It was like 2013, 14 it was. They made the biggest wind tunnel in the whole Middle East in Iran. They didn't have anybody uh, they didn't have anybody to try the wind tunnel. It was the biggest wind tunnel I have ever seen in my whole life. They sent one of the generals inside the wind tunnel and he broke two of his ribs, and they didn't have anybody, and they were like, they called me to go and try the wind tunnel, see how it works. And I went, and it was Asha was operating, and I was inside the wind tunnel, and all the nails and everything was out of all the walls, so it was
Oh,
like really
wow.
scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the time I had enough experience to like be like in the center. So then they asked me to teach the military. So like the whole team of the military skydivers in the wind tunnel. Funny, this is a religion thing. In a Muslim religion, men cannot touch women in even like handshake or anything,
Uh-huh.
nothing. Because they needed to have me, they needed me to teach them how to
Yes, of
fly in
course.
the, they brought this Ayatollah to look at us and just approve. And I had all these like cover up, like hijab and everything under my even helmet. I had this like baggy suit that I had on. But of course, when you're going to the wind tunnel with the wind and everything is gonna like attach to
Blows
your
it all
body,
away. Of course it
they're
will.
gonna see the shape of your body, obviously. So he was like, oh my god, it was so stupid. He was like looking, like not looking at me, looking on the ground this way, that way. They needed me. So he was like, yeah, if she wears gloves and manage the guys in the wind tunnel, that would be okay. So I'm like,
Cool.
okay.
Well, thanks for that.
So yeah, I had these like stupid challenges as well. But yeah, I had I was the first wind tunnel coach back home.
Yeah, from an instructor perspective, and it is it's a story of firsts.
Yeah.
Everything is a first. You're the first Iranian stunt woman. You're the first Iranian skydiver. There's so many things, and also I wanted to touch just very briefly before we go on a lovely thing that I know you know about this. I've discussed this with you already, but it's a beautiful pack of cards. You remember the pack of cards?
Yeah,
And
yes. Oh my God, I'm
what
so lucky to be
it's
there.
just extraordinary. And for those people who haven't seen it, I'll put some images up here. But it's a remarkable pack of cards, and these are very important, very influential women, Iranian women particularly, but also the idea that Masha will be on this because of her background and everything is really, really fabulous. Because
That was a huge
so
surprise
important.
for me being there. Yeah, it was so sweet.
It
I
was
couldn't
such a
believe
lovely
it.
thing.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a deck of cards. Oh my God, this is so amazing. And I'm like, in the mix of all these amazing women that they made history, I'm like, I'm nobody next to them. I'm like, this
Well,
is so sweet.
that's why it was so important, because these are major names in history, and yet
Yeah.
you have made significant difference because of where you've come from, because of who you are, because of the business that you're in, and created all these tick boxes, the first this, the first that, the first that. And look, I came from Iran and nobody knows I was a girl, and it's this and it's that. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Um, Certainly, you can understand immediately why people like Andy and feel as though they want to go. Yeah, you want to come to the US? Come on, Come on, we'll look after you. That's fine. Don't worry.
I didn't even ask. It was Andy sending me the invitation, and I came here, and he was like, "Yeah, why don't you just stay here? We get your green card." And like this, yes, exactly. It was Andy, Lane Levitt, and George Peter. These three big names. They signed the paperwork for me. They became my sponsor, and they got my green card. Like,
Well, certainly, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, we will be thankful to them
of course.
for the rest of our lives for bringing Masha here to the world for that. Oh, we all love you here, you know that, and it's a great thrill to have you on. And thank you very much for doing this because I know that
Thank you for having me.
fabulous time difference.
Of course. I mean, yeah. Well, what time is it now?
Oh well, it must be way past your bedtime
Oh
now. I
my God,
imagine
it's like
it's much earlier
10
here, but.
to 2. Thank you
Uh,
so much for having me. It was a lovely chat, and I hope one day I meet you in person. You never know.
Absolutely, yes, we should get round to that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good rest of the day for you. I'm gonna go to bed.
There you go. That is Mahsa Ahmadi, and it was a joy to speak to her. I've known her for ages on social media. We've always communicated via social media. We had a couple of phone calls a little while ago, and that's the first time we'd actually met. Was during our Zoom conversation a little while ago. But she's an absolute joy, and she continues to bring thrills and excitement into many, many people's lives, and those around her are made better because she is there. It's not a bad quality to have, you know. You could do much, much worse. That was terrific. I enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed that too. If you would like to check out more about Mahsa, go and check her IMDb page, and you will find all her details there and varying movies that she's been involved in, either as a performer, an actress, or indeed as a coordinator. I mentioned the History Channel program Colosseum. That is, I keep mentioning it, but it is due a rerun. I'm told. By some folk at the History Channel. They're due to rerun that, I think, at some point. So if you didn't check it out the first time, check it out again when it comes to your History Channel. And, well, that's about it for now. Next week, well, we're going to be looking at a movie that... it's over 30 years old, but it still stands up as one of the greats. And I've always loved it. And I'm very lucky to be in a situation where I can speak to the stunt coordinator on the picture and go, can we have a chat about it? Because I've always wanted to know a bit more about it, and you were there, so let's talk through it and see how we get on. So we did that a couple of weeks back. I refer, of course, to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The stunt coordinator is Paul Weston, and we will talk about the movie in depth, look through some of the action, and he tells you how the gags were done. So that's something to look forward to, and that's next time. Until then, don't forget to check out the Pod Dojo Network. They're the people responsible for the podcast, and I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of you, because currently there are 11,000 people subscribing to this channel, which is unbelievable. I knew that there was going to be interest in the action industry. Of course, there always is. There are many channels out there which devote themselves to action and adventure and car crashes and this and that and stuff. But to have 11,000 people who want to know a bit more about how these things are done is enormous, and it makes my heart melt. So to all of you, thank you very, very much indeed. I appreciate every single comment. Not all of them good, you understand. You have to take the rough with the smooth. There are a lot of people out there who have no inner monologue whatsoever, no filtration system. When they speak and they're angry, and I get a lot of that as well. But that's par for the course. So you take that and you take it on the chin and you learn from it and you try not to do that next time. And I do listen, you know, and but sometimes it may sound like maybe I don't, but I do. So to all of you, thank you very much indeed. Here's to the next 11,000. We'll keep going until the job is done, and until next time, it's bye for now.